In 2022, Mick Malthouse provided his insight into who he thought would win the 2022 AFL Grand Final. Malthouse on SEN's The Run Home with Kimbo and Root backed the Bombers to win the 2022 Grand Final. That prediction turned out to be far from accurate, as the Bombers would end the 2022 season only 7 wins, finishing 15th on the ladder at the end of the home and away season. Not only that, but their newest coach in Ben Rutten would be sacked after only 2 years as coach. You only have to look 7 years prior, and Malthouse was this time coaching the Blues when he blurted out this big call for his team ahead of the coming season. He thought his team would potentially go undefeated in the 2015 home and away season. The Blues would go on to win only one of their first 11 games of the season, and Malthouse would part ways with the Blues before his 3-year deal would expire. This goes to show that even the most revered football minds can have a bad prediction here and there. Peter Schwab was coaching the Hawks in 2004. Before the start of the season, he believed that the Hawks would win the premiership that year. He was confident in his team to succeed after much criticism. After 18 games, the Hawks would be 2-16, and Schwab would be sacked as coach. Those are some bad predictions by Malthouse and Schwab, but at least they had optimistic predictions for those sides. But nothing is more embarrassing than predicting a team's downfall, and that was done so by AFL legend Robert Walls. Walls is a 3-time premiership player for Carlton and a premiership coach for the Blues in 1987. He coached Fitzroy, Carlton, the Brisbane Bears and Richmond. However, in March of 2018, Walls, as a long-time media commentator and AFL expert, predicted that the loss of experienced players in their side, the West Coast Eagles, would finish dead last in 2018. And we all know how that ended. Walls would come back after the season to clarify his prediction, saying that he thought that he would just put that bait out, and a lot of Eagles supporters took it. He said his prediction would galvanise the West Coast Eagles supporters, and he took a lot of credit for helping them get through the line in the 2018 season, but I don't think that anyone really bought that. Another premiership success that has left the journo eating their words is the most recent success of Geelong in the 2022 Grand Final. The Cats went into the 2022 season with the oldest playing group, with an average age of 28. In the 2021 preliminary final, the Cats named 11 players over 30 years of age in their team. The first time a team has played that many 30-plus aged players ever. That team would be run off its legs by eventual premiers Melbourne by 83 points. In an article by Sarah Black titled 5 Talking Points, Are the Cats Finally Too Old, Too Slow? She remarked on the age of the Cats. There was no prediction, but the verbiage of too old and too slow alluded to the Cats possibly running out of time to be competitive, and perhaps a rebuild was knocking at their door. Fast forward to 2022, the Cats annihilated Sydney to win their first premiership since 2011 and break the finals hoodoo they were experiencing since. How about a prediction of a team's success that eventually ended in downfall? The year was 1980, and the Richmond Tigers had won the 1980 premiership, obliterating the Magpies by 81 points in front of 113,000 people. Kevin Bartlett becomes the Norm Smith medalist with 7 goals, and the Tigers win their 10th premiership in their history, and the first since 1974 when they won back-to-back. In an article by Ron Carter, chief football writer for The Age, after the Tigers' premiership win, he predicts Richmond will be hailed as the power of the 80s and the side which will set the standard for the next decade, even possibly going back-to-back in 1981. However, this did not happen. In fact, the Tigers did not make the finals the following year, and even so, besides the 1983 season where they won minor premiers, the Tigers did not make the finals for the remainder of the decade. And to add insult to injury, it would be another 37 years from their premiership win that the Tigers would win another grand final. Safe to say that prediction missed the mark. Another quick miss of the mark came in the 2003 season when members of the Age football riding team backed the Sydney Swans to finish last and win the wooden spoon. However, the Swans would go on to win 14 matches for the year and lose to a powerful Brisbane Lions outfit in the preliminary final. This led to the Age somewhat admitting they were wrong in an article outlining the results of their predictions. In that same article, our old mate Robert Walls predicted the Doggies to have a successful season, only to finish dead last with 3 wins and a draw. In 2005, the Sydney Swans had a tough start, only winning 2 out of their first 6 matches. Then AFL CEO Andrew Demetriou had made comments that the Swans were playing a brand of footy that was not attractive and would not win them any matches. The Swans were known for focusing on low-scoring, stoppage-based defensive football. Their style of play was indeed very defensive, as they only finished 14th in the points scored for and the second lowest for points scored against. Paul Roos, as coach, would stick to this game plan, and not only did the Swans finish third in the ladder that season, with 15 wins, they would go on to win their first premiership in 72 years in one of the lowest scoring affairs, the lowest scoring grand final since 1960 and the lowest ever in the AFL era. The defensive play of the Swans has somewhat gone on to change the landscape of the game, as the defensive style of play is widely adopted by clubs and low-scoring matches have become a problem for the AFL. With the bad predictions, there are the ones that come true, but they don't happen too often. In 2010, Richmond CEO Brendan Gale appeared on an episode of Footy Classified to defend a plan to be the top club by 2020. Gale's vision, the Tigers to have 75,000 members, double than what they had at the time, no debt, and 3 premierships by the year 2020. While sitting in the hot seat being grilled by the hosts of the show about whether he felt embarrassed by this vision, Gale had held tight to his belief and backed his club like any CEO should. Fast forward to 2017 and the Tigers hit the membership of 75,777. By 2019, the Tigers were the most popular Victorian club with 103,358 members. And by 2020, the Tigers had locked in their 3rd premiership, and that segment of Footy Classified will forever be one of the greatest age-like fine wine moments in AFL history. Some predictions are so out there, nobody believes they would come true. They might even be throwaway comments just to get a chuckle out of others. But Geelong player Harry Taylor appeared on the now disbanded AFL talk show Before the Game in 2010. And prior to the grand final between St Kilda and Collingwood, he had this to say.
I'm backing the draw and then come back next week and Collingwood by 10 points.
Okay. Did you dream that or something?
No, I just sort of had a feeling this week sort of that's going to happen, so I'm backing that in.
And as we all know, Collingwood and St Kilda would draw the first time since 1977. And other predictions come true in the moment where it just appears so fitting. We all remember possibly the best individual quarter performance in AFL history, where Swans forward Nick Davis kicked the final 4 goals of the match. As Davis kicked the 4th goal to put the Swans in front, with the crowd going wild and the commentators screaming at pure disbelief of what had just happened. The cameraman catches and pans to a spectator holding a sign cleverly written, "Nick Davis, come to save us." This fan may have thought that the sign was just a catchy play on words with Davis's name, but that night the sign rang truer than it ever could, and is possibly the most unintentionally best prediction to have come true in AFL history.